from hopelessness, I stayed on the side of hostility because it gave me energy. But whether I gave up to do nothing or got up to do everything, I couldn't make things go my way so that I could have lasting peace, which was my goal. Serenity prayer. That was my goal, but I couldn't get it. My addiction to fighting to get identity and approval from my qualifier was driven by a thought. I thought I could fight to make things right. This was my MO. No amount of emotional or physical beating could stop me from this. I have literally almost died numerous times from codependency. It was at a point of near death that my sponsor came along and suggested that I go to an Al-Anon meeting, and I did, and I kept going back because for 1 hour I experienced a feeling that I had never known. It was magical. And I just wanted to keep going back because it was like a life support. For 1 hour. The serenity that Al-Anon gave me made me even more determined to go home, to fight, to make things right at home. A quote from the first edition Big Book of AA, page 58 says, "Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now." Personally, I think codependency is just as cunning, baffling, and powerful as alcohol or drugs, and requires the help of one who has all power. As long as I was actively addicted to an excessive reliance of getting identity and approval from people, I was able to get fleeting peace, just fleeting peace. The problem was that people had the power to control when and when I wouldn't have peace. So I skipped to the first part of step 11 and started to improve my conscious contact with God. So the higher power, who I call HP, showed me that my thoughts were the exact opposite of the first 3 steps of the 12-step program. Do you want to hear them? Yeah. Okay. You probably already know it, but when I wrote this out, it was interesting. So, step 1. I am all powerful and can manage my life. Step 2. I believe I have great power to restore others to sanity. Step 3. I decided that others should turn their will over to my care. I believe this. The honesty HP was showing me made me feel stuck. I couldn't do Al-Anon steps 1, 2, and 3. That thought paralyzed me. But I couldn't keep lying to myself either. That would be crazy. So what was I so afraid of? Turns out that after so many times of opening up my heart to trust a person who also didn't have inner resources of love to give to me, my heart wisely decided to close and declared it would never be vulnerable again, since seeking love from those who also needed love was my heart's only experience. So I had to use my head to tell my heart that it was right to protect itself from chronic hurt coming from people who weren't tapped into HP's ways. But it was wrong for my heart not to try to open up, to trust people who proved they used HP's ways. Let me say that one more time. It was wrong for my heart not to try to open up, to trust people who proved they used HP's ways. Yet the main thing my heart, or my head, needed to tell my heart was that HP was never the one who actually hurt me. HP was the epitome of love. I just could not trust love. This was driven by fear. I could not trust love. And I was driving that fear into my children and my qualifier. There was no way that fear was going to help me recover my true loving self. Nor was it going to help me, because I wanted to recover my children's and my qualifier. That was my family. I was doing the exact opposite thing to try to recover their true and loving selves. So it was time for me to roll up my sleeves and start working the program. Since my thoughts seemed to be my biggest problem, I began by memorizing the first 3 steps of Anon through a song. You want to hear that? Yeah. Let's see if I can do it. Okay. Admit I am powerless and come to believe that a power greater than myself restores sanity. Decide to turn my will over to HP. Admit I am powerless and come to believe that a power greater than myself restores sanity. Decide to turn my will over to HP and do this just for me, just for me, just for me. The more I sang this song, the more I had control over the amount of time I spent at peace. Serenity prayer. I knew I needed to detach from my qualifier, but I couldn't yet. So I added the rest of step 11 and started to pray for the knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. Through communication with God, I realized HP is my maker and knows me better than I know myself. So He knew if and when I would ever be able to detach from my qualifier. HP showed me that His will for me was to put down put-downs. He did not want me to put myself, others, or God down. So I asked HP for the power to carry His tailored will out for me. When I approached my qualifier to discuss an unresolved issue, it usually turned into a fight. You know, the fight to make it right, while my qualifier ran to hide for his life. I can't blame him. I blamed him then, but I cannot blame him now. Remember, codependency is scary stuff. With practice taking self-inventory, I started noticing when I was putting down a put-down onto my qualifier. The minute I put down a put-down, it was my cue to put down my put-downs and take a timeout. I became aware that if I tried to resolve an issue and didn't get to the point of putting down my qualifier at all, and instead took a timeout, that this was the in-between same place, the happy face, not the ugly ones. That's the in-between same place. This was the point in time where I could know I did my best and let HP do the rest. Maybe I could let go and let God, but would I? more time. Do you think, well, actually, I'll ask you, do you think that I would be able to let go and let God at this point? No, I couldn't take a time out. I had serious separation anxiety and panic attacks. I hated timeouts. That's why I did this. I wasn't going to do it. No way. So my head had to have a talk with my heart. It had to overrule its dominant thought of hating timeouts so that my heart could quiet itself. The next right thing for me to do was to work out my mind until I got a mental sweat in order to build a new neural pathway into my brain. I did this by using the slogan, "Fake it till you make it," by daily marching around the house. I love timeouts, 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 I love timeouts. And I did this until I finally had a little bit of peace with that thought. Then I was ready to take a timeout the next time I had the thought to put down my qualifier during an attempt to fix our chronic dysbond. My first timeout lasted about 3 minutes. But I did it with HP's help, and I really knew I was doing something new. Because the craving to turn around and go back to fight to make things right was unbelievably strong, of which I typically did go back after my 3-minute timeout and make a fight to make things right. But pretty soon, my timeouts lasted for 30 minutes because I busied myself talking with HP, of which he was impressing upon me that he would fight to make things right. That was another exact opposite thought from my own thought supply. Next thing I knew, I was taking 3-day-long timeouts. I was finding that during the timeouts, HP was really there for me, especially during those strong craving times, beckoning me to go back and attempt to fix the broken relationship with the qualifier. As long as I kept asking HP to remove the craving and reminding myself that the craving was a sign that I was doing something right, I resisted going back for a fix until HP made my uncomfortable feeling go away. Eventually, the timeouts were 30 days long, then 3 months, and now I am going on a 3-year timeout. And I wouldn't mind 30. During timeouts, I suffered a lot, though. A timeout is like, can you see me? A timeout is like being on a narrow path with a wall on one side and a cliff to your death on the other side, like in Snake Canyon or something. And so when I'm on a timeout, it's a narrow path. And unfortunately, the craving is like a tarantula spider, a big one, haunching up, ready to jump on me. And if I were to turn around, I would fall to my death. And if I were to back up, this spider's going to keep coming at me, jump on me, and I'm going to scream, freak out, fall to my death anyway. So the only thing that I could do is pray and jump over that tarantula spider. Because turning back or falling off of that cliff was sure death. That's what this is, codependency. And it's literal death for me, because I did it for so many years. It'll kill you just like drugs and alcohol.
No shit.
Everything traumatic, though, was turned into a terrifico in time, as long as I applied an attitude of gratitude. Not only was HP giving me the power to have lasting peace. Serenity prayer. Which, by the way, was giving me a wonderful sense that I was approved of. But HP was birthing a purpose out of my pain, which became part of my identity. No longer do I need to shout at a qualifier and scare them to death, because I know HP shouts at them for me. And it's only logical to think that if a qualifier isn't listening to HP, the all-powerful one, then the qualifier is certainly not going to listen to little old me. So, as I said before, no amount of physical or emotional beating could stop me of my addiction to an excessive reliance on other people for approval and identity.
Woohoo!
I needed to trust love from above. For example, and I'm almost done. For example, to get a feel-good fix, I no longer go to Facebook to count my likes. I fix my heart and my mind on getting my likes from God. He can give me a thumbs up, and He does all the time, even when I do things wrong. It's wonderful. That's lasting peace. One day at a time, I am detached from all qualifiers in my life now, and I've got lasting peace because I'm pretty attached to HP. Serenity prayer is mine now. I did it. Thank you, Wayfarers, for the company on my journey.